We went into the community to see how some in Lafayette feel about this new aggressive and invasive and potentially groundbreaking law.
To protect the children, yeah, they definitely need that kind of bill here in Louisiana.
I believe they need to learn a lesson.
And this is irreversible too. You know that, right?
Well, then people should think about what they do before they do it.
So you're for it?
Yes.
Hey YouTube, you have made your way back to Mind Your Mind with Just Justified. You saw the thumbnail. Let's get into it. Now remember, this is more for learning because this is something that actually was passed this year. It's very current. And the thumbnail is the man who is set to be neutered. Now, of course, you know, it's not really that term used for the man, but I just decided to play a little bit with the title. But it is in like, so this, I decided to talk about this because if you remember not too long ago, I did a video about child SA. And with that in mind and seeing this not too long after, I decided to highlight something that is happening in the state of Louisiana. It's actually a legislator that was just rolled out, and it allows surgical castration on offenders who are guilty of X crimes against children. So for more than it actually had been a law allowing chemical castration not too long ago for those predators who prey on children, but recently they rolled out surgical castration. So here is a news them talking about it on the news, basically.
This new surgical castration law for offenders who have served jail time for crimes against children.
The new law went into effect today, and it's the first of its kind in the entire country, and one many consider controversial. It pertains to both male and female child sex offenders. News 15's Jeff Horchak joining us live in studio with an in-depth look at this new state law. Jeff.
Well, Marcel and Jim, State Senator Regina Barrow, who co-authored this new law, feels very passionate about protecting children. She tells me she's talked and listened to numerous testimonies over the years from children who were actually assaulted and felt that steps need to be taken to get such a bold law like this on the books. But not everyone agrees with her thinking. Louisiana's new castration bill is one that has received a lot of attention. It was signed into law in June by Governor Jeff Landry. Now, this will permit judges to order people who have finished serving time for crimes against children under the age of 13 to undergo surgical castration within a week of their release.
I believe that it certainly is going to have a chilling effect on those individuals who are the perpetrators, because now they know that something drastically is going to happen to them. Something drastically can happen to them when they are caught.
Senator Regina Barrow, a Democrat of Baton Rouge, co-authored this bill along with Delisha Boyd, a Democratic state representative out of New Orleans. Both of these women have received pushback on this new law. Now, one of those is Senator Gerald Boudreaux, who represents District 24 that covers Lafayette, St. Martin, and St. Landry parishes. He tells me, quote, "I voted against the legislation because it went too far and was too extreme as a form of punishment. We have to control crime, but I don't condone the extreme measure in this bill." Now, chemical castration has been on the books for offenders in Louisiana for years, but it's rarely used. According to Barrow, it's not protected enough children.
But I felt like the measures that we have in place have not done enough to move the needle as it relates to the assault on children. And at the end of the day, that's what I am most concerned about.
Written into this bill, the offender will have the option to refuse the surgical castration handed down by a judge, but it comes at a cost.
It allows an individual, rather than having this, they would serve 2 more years in prison.
We went into the community to see how some in Lafayette feel about this new aggressive and invasive and potentially groundbreaking law.
To protect the children, yeah, they definitely need that kind of bill here in Louisiana.
I believe they need to learn a lesson.
And this is, I mean, this is irreversible too. You know that, right?
Well, then people should think about what they do before they do it.
So you're for it?
Yes.
Yeah, I love the law, actually. I think every state should have it, but I'm glad Louisiana will be the first to adopt it.
With Louisiana being the first state to enact this type of law, Senator Barrow thinks that more states may follow.
I'm believing that this case will stick. I believe that it will begin to change the trajectory of this country to say it's not okay. Children, it's not okay to abuse children. It's not okay to assault children.
Now, Senator Boudreaux tells me that he expects several groups to file legal action towards the state over this new law. Live in studio for News 15 Investigates, I'm Jeff Horchak.
All right, so you saw that was in the news. It's been passed, and it's up to it's the judge's discretion. Up to the judge's discretion. And the person, I think, if they plead a certain way or whatever, then they can choose either the surgical or the chemical. So the chemical castration includes the use of medication that blocks testosterone production to decrease X drive. And the surgical castration is an invasive procedure involving the removal of both testicles or ovaries. So what do you think? Like, you know, that guy in the news, he said he voted against it, but I'm like, okay, if you're voting against it, they tend to be a prisoner to this incident for the rest of their lives, the victims. So while he's even living out his life in jail or a significant term, that victim is left in their mind thinking about it, having to deal with it, having to heal from it, having to go through therapy from it, it affecting whatever else in their lives, you know. So you got to kind of consider what you consider extreme. You said that's extreme, but what about the victim's life changing forever, you know? So it kind of makes me kind of eerie about him being against the extremity of it. So in the news also, it later talked about this man. His name is Glenn Sullivan, aged 54. He was sentenced to 50 years in prison in addition to physical castration after pleading guilty in April to multiple counts of rape against a juvenile who became pregnant, and a DNA test proved he was the father. So there was a test done proving that he raped this young lady, this young girl. So, and it's multiple counts of rape against this young child. So, the chemical castration was enacted in like 2008, which it allowed it for certain X crimes. But now the surgical was enacted August 1st. That's when it was rolled out. So some say it proves necessary protection. And as you heard in that news article, the video that basically said that it sends a strong message, right? But then we also saw the other concern for it. So this is a video of a woman breaking down the types of castration.
Louisiana just did it. They just passed a bill that would allow a judge to order surgical or chemical castration of individuals convicted of child sex crimes. But what does that mean? I'm going to explain what surgical and chemical castration is as if I'm talking to a 5-year-old. So many people hear this term, but they have really no idea what it is. Men and women have multiple hormones. Two major ones, right, that we hear, testosterone and estrogen. Estrogen is associated and is in higher quantities in women, females. Testosterone, women still do have testosterone. We can make it from our fat, actually, is primarily what we would consider like a dominant hormone in men. Like men usually have higher levels of this, and that's a lot of the reasons why our body chemistry looks different. That's part of the reason why they do facial hair. Where testosterone comes into play with castration is testosterone is associated with a really high sex drive, and also in males, their sexual health, their ability to help them perform. I have to be careful what I'm going to say and how I'm phrasing this stuff because I don't want my video taken down. Follow on. By surgically removing on the men what is their primary maker of this hormone, the thought is that it will basically make them uninterested in having sex, if not unable to have sex. Hence taking away their desire to reoffend. Reoffend means they're out on parole, right, because they've been convicted, that they are less likely to go seek out and do this sort of behavior to another victim. What chemical castration is, would be wanting the same effects of lowering that testosterone, taking away their sex drive, but by doing it by supplementing and basically by using chemicals to achieve that result within their body. Now, that is a really basic explanation, so all my science people don't be coming yelling at me. But what's unique about this bill is it's going to actually authorize a surgical procedure on another individual's body. Looking at the bill, it looks like they don't have to, but if they agree to it, it's in lieu of sentencing. So the judge can say, if you're willing to be castrated, I will knock off X amount of years off of your time in prison. What do you guys think? I have very strong thoughts on this. I have a really
bad pause, but so what do you think? She said she had very bad thoughts about it. Do you think that they should have that choice if to have castration to knock off, or should that be automatic when it comes to these kind of crimes? Like, that's something that some people have raised concern with. So a lot of people, though there are people who raise concerns, a lot are in agreement with this law. But what I believe DNA testing must be present, right? DNA evidence must be present. So once there's DNA evidence, those people who think that, okay, what if something wrong happens, if they're falsely accused or whatever the situation is, with DNA testing, it kind of eliminates or, almost lessens, pretty much lessens the whole idea of someone being falsely accused. Like, especially with Sullivan, the DNA test was taken and found that he impregnated this young girl. So, as I said, I want to always, as I do usually when I talk in this topic, bring the victim to the forefront when we talk about it. For those who claim for it to be so severe, do you know the lasting ramifications these events have on their victims? They're prisoners forever in their thoughts and memories through unplanned pregnancies or even diseases. So some may only find some level of normalcy with the help of therapy, but that's not always the case. Some of them, they are broken forever. So who are you going to vouch for? A repeated offender? Are you gonna if Uncle so and so, because sometimes it's the family and everybody want to turn a blind eye. So are you going to vouch for Uncle so and so who may be a repeated offender, or are you going to vouch for that child who deserves to be protected? That's the question. So I'm gonna leave with a quick mindful moment. So I just have a quote for the mindful moment. It says, "Every child deserves a shield in the battle of life." Every child deserves a shield in the battle of life. So let's try and protect those who cannot always protect themselves, rather than vouching for all these people who are causing harm. I don't know. What do you think about this legislator that was rolled out? Let me know. Like, you may be for, you may be against. Let me know. So I want to know some good arguments for why it may not be a good idea. What do you think? And if it's also expanded to other places, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section. I'll talk to you later. Bye, y'all.